Why Dwayne Johnson's Luke Hobbs was not in F9 when Dwayne Johnson joined the cast of the Fast and the Furious franchise. It revived the movies and changed everything about the series. Before Fast 5, the franchise was mostly about illegal street racing and the heists that Dom and his crew pulled off while avoiding the police. However, the heist in Fast 5 led to something bigger, with the team suddenly becoming almost secret agents, joining a mysterious organization, and nearly becoming street racing superheroes. Dwayne Johnson joined the Fast and the Furious franchise as Luke Hobbs. In his first appearance, he was a DSS agent assigned to take down Dom and his team, almost like a bounty hunter sent out to bring them in. In Fast and Furious 6, he transitioned into an ally, and by the time of his fourth appearance in The Fate of the Furious, he was no longer a law enforcement officer and was arrested for helping Dom and his crew. Sadly, that also marked the end for Dwayne Johnson in the mainline Fast and the Furious series. While Dwayne Johnson's Luke Hobbs was a supporting character in the Fast and the Furious movies when he first appeared, he became one of the main stars by the time The Fate of the Furious rolled around. However, at the time, it seemed Johnson and Diesel could not work well together in the long term. The Vin Diesel and Dwayne Johnson feud started in 2016 when Johnson wrote a social media post that called out some of his male co-stars as candy asses. Vin Diesel, for his part, refused to take part in a war of words online at the start, but this reportedly caused tension during the filming of The Fate of the Furious. In that instance, Johnson apparently did not share any scenes with Diesel on set. In 2017, Diesel said things were blown out of proportion. The actors were too alphas, and he was a big brother to Johnson in Hollywood. Johnson later took issue with that role, saying they were not brothers. After The Fate of the Furious, F9 faced several delays, and Tyrese Gibson even publicly criticized the fact that Johnson was about to lead a spin-off movie. However, things got worse, and Johnson completely pulled out of F9. Eventually, Johnson said in a later interview about the feud that he regretted making his beef with Vin Diesel public. But yeah, it wasn't my best day sharing that. I shouldn't have shared that. Because at the end of the day, that goes against my DNA. I don't share things like that. And I take care of that kind of bullshit asterisk away from the public. They don't need to know that. That's why I say it wasn't my best day. However, Johnson also said he meant everything he said, and he still hasn't appeared with Vin Diesel in any other movie in the Fast and the Furious franchise. With that said, his role as Luke Hobbs was far from finished. While Dwayne Johnson never returned as Luke Hobbs in F9 in 2021, he still appeared in a franchise movie 2 years before that. In 2019, Johnson and Jason Statham reprised their roles as Luke Hobbs and Deckard Shaw in Hobbs and Shaw. This film sees the government bringing the former DSA agent together with the former MI6 agent, and while the two men had an intense hatred for each other, they agreed to work together to stop a terrorist plan to unleash a deadly virus. Despite not being part of the main Fast and the Furious timeline, Hobbs and Shaw was a huge success, making $760.7 million on a $200 million budget. It proved fans wanted to see more of Dwayne Johnson and Jason Statham, and that pairing was just as important as anything with Vin Diesel. It also allowed Johnson to keep expanding the franchise and his character, although Hobbs and Shaw 2 never happened. Fast X saw Dom and his crew terrorized by a new villain, but it all tied back into the film that saw Dwayne Johnson join the franchise. In Fast 5, the team targeted a ruthless drug lord named Herman Reyes. They stole his money by stealing his entire vault, and their escape ended with Hobbs killing Reyes in the final battle. In Fast X, Hernan's son Dante Reyes was edited into several Fast 5 scenes to show he was there the entire time and watch the team kill his father. Throughout Fast X, Dante is getting revenge on Dom and his crew. By the film's end, they all seemed in dire straits, with Dom and his son looking like they were about to die before it ended with a massive cliffhanger. However, Fast X did leave one more scene in the post-credits to appease fans. Johnson returning as Hobbs and finding a message from Dante that said he was coming for Hobbs next.